Complexity often leads to problems, and when it comes to business insurance, this is very true. In this video, I'm going to talk about the top 5 coverage gaps and issues we see in technology firm insurance programs and how to address them. I'll say from the onset that in many cases, the root cause of the issues we see are due to founders using a generalist type insurance broker instead of a specialist. Again, the complex nature of tech firms and their insurance programs really requires the deployment of a skilled broker knowledgeable of the tech sector. I'll break it down in just a minute. Hi, I'm Gordon Coyle. Welcome to my channel where we talk about the risk and insurance issues on the minds of business owners. As an expert business insurance broker, these videos are intended to help guide and educate decision makers to help make you a more informed insurance buyer. If I don't answer the question on your mind that actually brought you to this video, reach out and let's connect. I'd love to hear from you. Okay. So what are the common issues or gaps we find when we review an insurance program for a tech company? I think the first problem area has to do with the limits of protection or how much coverage is being purchased. Understandably, a tech founder will want to save money and purchase $1 million of limits of protection for various policies, but then they never really readdress them. Often, this may be a shortcoming of the insurance broker who doesn't offer higher limits or options, or who doesn't recommend higher limits in subsequent renewals. Tech E&O lawsuits and cyber-related claims are expensive to defend against and to settle. And since most of these policies are written on a claims-made form, that includes defense costs within the limits of liability, there's a shrinking pool of dollars to pay claims when they occur. So it makes sense to look at the affordability of higher limits. In addition, we're seeing that larger customers of tech firms contractually demand higher limits of protection, often in the $5 to $10 million range. So thinking about building the cost of higher limits into a tech firm's budget is kind of important. Number 2, getting the definition of technology services incorrect in the tech E&O policy. This may happen in inception when a broker doesn't fully understand the scope of services, products, or the work the client is doing. Or it may happen over time, as it's not uncommon for a tech firm to start off doing one thing and then morphing into another type of operation or offering. The problem here is that E&O coverage hinges on the services or products being insured. Get this wrong and coverage for claims could be jeopardized. The wrong time to find out if you are or aren't covered for $1 million liability claim is when one has happened. You want to get this right, which means the definition of covered services should be reviewed upon every renewal to be certain it broadly defines your operations. Number 3. Basic risks such as property losses, auto liability claims, or slip and fall claims aren't covered. Often, tech firms will operate virtually with no fixed office location, so their founder or insurance broker overlook the need for a business owner's or BOP policy to cover the basics. Yeah, I get it. The thinking is that if I have no office, how am I going to have a slip and fall claim or loss from fire or theft? There's a couple of important points here to make. The first is that a BOP may cost just around $1,000. So we're not talking about a big chunk of money. Second, you don't have to have an office to be sued for bodily injury or property damage type claims. These claims can arise anywhere, including your customers' offices, during an event you host, or any business setting. Lastly, the BOP policy provides a lot of filler type coverages for things like auto liability lawsuits that name your company when you or an employee is using a personal auto for business purposes. Number 4 is international exposures. More and more, we're seeing tech firms seeking customers, partners, and investors overseas. This can pose a problem on multiple fronts, as many business insurance policies have territorial definitions that restrict coverage to the U.S. Simple issues like what happens when a founder travels overseas for business and is injured. Does your E&O insurance cover you worldwide? What if founders rent a vehicle overseas on business? These questions and more need to be answered to be certain that your coverage protects you regardless of where you go or sell your product. Number 5, relying on third-party coverage, specifically from payroll providers or PEOs for employment practice liability or EPLI. First, I can appreciate the need to simplify in startup mode, and bundling certain things like payroll, workers' comp, or EPLI may make sense. But as a tech firm grows, I think it makes sense to look at these third-party providers for a few things. First, does the bundling of services still make sense economically? I've seen the fees attached to certain bundling arrangements become way too expensive over time, to the point where breaking them out separately makes a lot more sense. Second, look at what you're getting. When it comes to EPLI, I've seen fairly high retentions or deductibles, and in some plans, in some PEO plans like 50,000, 75,000, 125,000, which means if you had a claim for discrimination or harassment or some other wrongful employment act, you're paying those big numbers out of pocket first before insurance kicks in. Do you have that sort of cash lying around for that purpose? Or would it make sense to have your own policy with a lower retention? Last point here is that some EPLI policies from PEOs are not as broad as what's available in the marketplace, so this bundling approach may not be best. All right, to wrap it up, I've identified some of the common issues we see with tech firms and their insurance coverages. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, tech insurance is complex. There's a lot of moving parts, and getting it right demands the skills of a good broker that understands technology insurance. That's what we do here at the Coyle Group. We're going to take the time to understand the issues you face as a startup or understand the policies you already have that have been around for a while. Then we're going to create a plan that's tailored to your specific needs. On top of that, we work with the top underwriters who focus on tech and want to write more tech-related businesses. Whether you're in software, services, hardware components, telecom, app development, e-com, SaaS, medical devices, or any other type of technology, we can help simplify your insurance and get what you need. Want to learn more? My contact info is in the description box below. You can even book a call on my calendar there, and I'd love to hear from you. Reach out and let's connect. Thanks for watching, and do me a favor, hit that like button.